On Saturday, the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks that killed 2,977 people. President Biden and the First Lady are going to be traveling to all three sites of the attack. So here's an interesting question. Is there any way the president can avoid mentioning the Americans killed 2 weeks ago by terrorists in the new epicenter of terrorism, the place from which the 9/11 attacks were spawned? Afghanistan. Here now is Mercedes Schlapp, ACU Foundation Senior Fellow and former White House Strategic Communications Director. Great to see you, Mercedes. Thanks for coming in. So, bottom line, we all know the president's trying to move eyes away from Afghanistan because it's a total disaster. But how does he not refer to it in three separate speeches this Saturday?
Look, it's going to be very tough for President Biden because he has made the claim that his withdrawal from Afghanistan was an extraordinary success, which we all know, including many in the liberal media, have even said that there have been huge problems with how the president has made this decision of getting out of Afghanistan. And obviously, this is being reflected in President Biden's poll numbers that continue to sink because of how he handled the situation in Afghanistan, leaving Americans behind. Now we're on a defensive position where we're depending on the terrorists to get Americans out, meaning the Taliban, who pretty much are dictating the terms right now, making a mockery of American leadership in the world.
You know, he chose that date, which was a frankly an idiotic thing to do. Forgive me for saying that about the President of the United States, but to choose the date of a terrible attack against the United States as a celebratory date for the Afghanistan war being over. That's why he did it. He wanted to be able to say, now the Afghan war is over. Well, the war is not over as long as there is a single American left in Afghanistan being held hostage, and let's call it for what it is. These are hostages. If they can't get out of their own accord, despite having all the papers necessary, and if there are negotiations being done between the Taliban and the White House and the State Department to let them down, these are hostages. As long as they're hostages in Afghanistan, they can't say the war is over.
Yeah, you're right. And obviously, you know that President Biden has spent a lot of time blaming everybody else. He's blamed President Trump for any issues in Afghanistan. He has blamed the pro-American Afghan forces. He basically blamed the former Afghan president, President Ghani. You know, the list goes on and on. He blamed the Americans who said, well, we gave you plenty of time to get out. But the reality is that many of these Americans and many of these pro-American Afghan allies couldn't even get to the airport because the conditions were so rough, because they were being hunted down by the terrorists and because they're living in fear. So the mere fact that he thinks that the war is over, well, let me tell you something. He just created a huge place where you're going to see the growth of terrorism in that country that will be backed by the terrorist organization of the Taliban.
Well, and they're still living in la-la land over in the State Department and in the White House. I mean, you know, here you have 13 Americans killed in a terrorist attack, partly because of the fact we were sharing responsibilities for safety around Kabul airport with the Taliban. You have Americans left behind. These are our sacred Americans coming home. And what is it? And then you have, what, 4 out of 5 of the members of the Taliban cabinet were let go in exchange, or terrorists let go in exchange for Bo Bergdahl's release. And what is it that they talk about at the State Department today as their problem? That the Taliban cabinet is not inclusive enough, that there aren't enough women in it. I mean, it's, what do they think the Taliban are? Have they turned a corner and become saints? You also have a State Department announcement. We also reiterate, and I'm quoting them now, our clear expectation that the Taliban ensure that Afghan soil is not used to threaten any other countries and allow humanitarian access and support. I mean, expecting the Taliban to be humanitarians. Who are these people?
Yeah, and if I were a reporter, my first question to Jen Psaki and the gang over at the State Department and President Biden, if he ever would answer a question, would be, are you going to recognize the Taliban as the legitimate government in Afghanistan? Are you going to allow the Taliban to sit in the United Nations and have a seat in the United Nations? I mean, these are very serious questions that we still don't have answers to. All we have are these weak responses of, quote unquote, the Taliban are not inclusive enough. Well, let me tell you, my 11-year-old could have told you that. You know, we've talked to the girls about what the Afghan women and girls are going through right now, how they're being brutalized by the Taliban, how they're being killed by the Taliban. They cannot go to school. Women cannot go to work. They've been thrown out of the government. This is the result of Biden's fiasco in terms of his decision of taking out our troops without having a plan of action. There was no strategy.
Forgive me, Mercedes, but what more does it take? You saw 13 Americans killed, hundreds of Afghans killed. They're still holding Americans behind enemy lines, and yet they have clear expectations of humanitarian behavior, quoting them. I mean, what more is it going to take to show them that they are not going to live up to the State Department's expectations?
Look, my guess is that the Biden administration wants to change the topic quickly.
Yeah.
It's why you see him talking about climate change and not understanding about what the word tornado means, because apparently it doesn't exist anymore in their dictionary. They want to change the conversation to abortion. They want to change it to anything else except Afghanistan. And let's remember, on top of that, he's got a pandemic that's out of control. We've seen cases continuously going high across the country. He's got an economy that we know is going to continue to face inflation. This is just mounting so many problems on the Biden administration. They will not be able to recover. And Afghanistan definitely was one of those policies where he himself has created a disaster that the American people are taking note.
Mercedes Schlapp, we went way over time, but it was necessary. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.